And we've had a lot of rain, humidity, and now we're getting some sunshine. What's it like?
It's been a very difficult year, to be honest. I mean, season, let's say season, because it started back in December. Yeah, we needed the rain, and we got the rain, and we got the rain. We didn't need the rain. We still got the rain. So yeah, it was timing. It was very frustrating season, Rob. We had some nice fruit out there and various right across a number of crops. Started off with the cherries. They got hammered with frost earlier on. Then a bit of hail came through, and then they ended up getting quite a bit of brown rot towards the end of their season. And the soft fruits such as strawberries, raspberries, very critical for the growers around Christmas period. That week before Christmas or 3 days before Christmas.
They farm all year for that, don't they?
And humidity was high, as you've said. And the fruit just didn't hold up. It was beautiful fruit, but it just did not hold up. So the people who bought it, some of them were a bit disappointed. They couldn't keep it in their fridge for 3-4 days. I mean, what they meant to do is buy it and eat it. But that's just unfortunate the way the season went. Even after going back through, after the hand picking goes on, they put machines through to clean up the fruit, go into jams and things like that. Even that was in big trouble. In fact, some of the growers just pulled out and said that's enough for the year. So it ended up looking like a good year and ended up being a very, very below average year, I would suggest.
Yeah, so how bad are people going to get really hurt?
Probably, look, they're resilient. Yes, they'll get knocked around, especially the strawberry guys. They rely on a huge amount of income coming in through that sort of 5 to 6 week period, right through to now, really. And they've missed out on a big chunk of their income. So they're going to have to hold their breath for another year and put their head down and do it again. And they will do, because they're resilient people. But it's not very good for the growers. The black currants, they had a tough year with frost earlier on, and then the fruit looked good, and it was coming in really well until that main rain which we got in the second week of January, and that was humid, hot. The fruit was coming in at about 20 degrees, which is really good for processing. What happened then? The temperatures went up, bricks went down, and the fruit started to deteriorate quite quickly. So we tried very hard, the growers tried very hard to get as much crop off as they could. They were even harvesting in the rain to get it off. And of course, when it leaves the farm in reasonably good nick.
Yeah,
but when we get up to Nelson, where we processed it, it was a bit soupy. It was okay. We didn't lose too much fruit, but the quality certainly went backwards. So you had to dispose of some of the fruit that you would much rather keep. And of course, when you're looking at the likes of a Ribena brand, they have several varieties. So if you lose one quite dramatically, you have to adjust the blending. And of course, you can only adjust it to a certain point. Otherwise, you change the flavour and colour of the product. So there we were actually disposing of good fruit too, because we had no place to put it. So a bit of a dark year really. Robert, what it really does and what it really means now is there's a lot of infection out there in the crops post-harvest. So what I mean by infection, I mean Alternaria, which for apples and some berry crops is black spot, Venturier diseases. And in the stone fruit, especially peaches and nectarines, but really got affected through that rain and that January period. And they have the Monia fructicoli, which is brown rot, and that's really quite bad. And they mummify the fruit on the trees, and you've got to get in and have a pretty strong spray program to minimise those spores, knock the spores out.
I suppose you can't do anything until the fruit comes off anyway.
No, you can't, but now we've got nectarines are clear. We're still on apricots down in central Otago. They're finding the same thing, a little bit of brown rot on them. Not so bad, because the sugars weren't coming up. It's about, if the sugars are up high and the rain comes in with humidity, you'll get brown rot like you've never seen it. And that's what happened to the latter part of the peaches and nectarines, to a lesser degree the cherries. So what it means is the growers have got to put in a pretty strong program now of copper and add in calcium nitrate, which is a granular fertiliser actually, but it's very soluble. Put that in the spray tanks, and that breaks down the trash, in other words the mummified fruit and the leaves that have got these spores on, and breaks them down, and they minimise. They don't eliminate the spores, but they certainly minimise them by a huge amount. So the growers know that, and they're out there doing post-harvest sprays now.
And that black spot, is that what we get that in our roses, or is that?
Yes, that's the same family. That's the same family. That's an Alternaria, and then we've also got a Microsporella, which is the one that goes into black currants and gooseberries. But they're all of the same family. They're cousins, and they all react the same way. So we've got to clean them up with a copper and a calcium nitrate also.
But how it goes out to those guys? I mean, there's the one in Marshlands Road who normally does fruit, and I drove in there and they said, we're just doing pick your own because it's not worth us picking them.
No, it isn't. And unfortunately, I just live in Redwood, North Christchurch there, and 300 metres away from us, the Marshland growers start, and about 200 metres into them, so 500 metres away from where I live, they got devastated with hail. Well, we never even got a blooming hailstone, and that's what hail does. It comes in strips. So a lot of the lettuce, just around that Christmas time again, a lot of the lettuce, cabbage, green beans, and all those things are there for Christmas, and peas, they got devastated out through that area too. So those guys didn't have much fun either, and they just plough them in. That's what you do. You just plough them in and replant, and away you go again. And of course, Christmas only comes once a year.
It does.
So those top prices that those guys really do rely on to even out their year, we've bottomed out a little bit, or bottomed out a bit this year.
Has it affected exports much?
No, not really, because the only thing that the exports affected was the cherries, which was a big cherry export. The other fruit is mainly consumed in New Zealand or is processed in New Zealand, so not too bad that way. And the apples, of course, are only just starting, although the fruit has been knocked around badly in Hawke's Bay, badly in southern Hawke's Bay, and in Rawaka, Motueka, Waimea Plains and Nelson. Those guys have had a huge amount of their fruit taken out with hail, so that will affect their export count. It'll increase the juice, which they don't get very much for at all, and so it goes on. And they can't do anything now until probably another 3 or 4 weeks' time, when the harvest is over for them, or into March, and then they'll start those same programs to eliminate those diseases.
And Jim, the imported fruit is still causing tummy problems and outbreaks of not very nice things in tummies. Yeah,
I mean, dare I say it, if I was a housewife at home, I wouldn't even think of contemplating purchasing it, to be honest. I would look for New Zealand label. If we haven't got New Zealand fruit, there's other lots of good fruit and vegetables out there processed and grown in New Zealand that I would have complete faith with. As far as the berry fruit goes, it's a very hard thing to track where it really is coming from. We've got some good suspicions where it's coming from, but it's not doing the berry fruit industry, our berry fruit industry, any good either, because people have all of a sudden not buying berry fruit when they should be.
Well, they'd be scared witless.
No, absolutely, and only rightly so. But at the end of the day, look on the labels, see what the origin is. If it's New Zealand, even if it's Australia, it's fine. You can buy it you can purchase it with confidence.
Wouldn't you think that the supermarkets would stop buying anything that had a risk?
No.
That was a very short conversation, Jim Grierson.
Look, I mean, they're in the business to sell things, and they will be assured that their purchasing is correct, and they'll deceive a number of customers.
So look for the New Zealand label.
Look for the New Zealand origin label.
Jim, thank you very much indeed. In just a moment, we'll be talking to Kerry about rural women.